Let's finish off chapter 3, this story of how we got from thousands of years ago thinking, ideas about everything going around us, ideas that were common sense or we had a bias for, whatever, making those measurements, you know the story, and just a few of the folks involved and a few of the ideas, right? We just finished Galileo, we finished Brahe, Kepler, we finished Galileo. Here we are at section 3.8, and we're going to talk about Newton. So what have we got here? Let me zoom in. We'll set the stage. We're just going to set the stage in this video. And so, yeah, that's what we've done. Chapter 3, we've didn't invent the telescope, but he made it better, and it was invented right around there. You know, so around 1600, you got that. And then I say for Newton, you know, around 1700, but let's take a close look, but just to get a sense, right? They actually overlapped. I mean, they didn't overlap, actually. It was a kind of a passed it on. So what do we have? So Galileo, 1564, you don't have to remember this, 1642. So he was 77 years old. Remember, he went on house arrest and all that stuff. Got a hold of a telescope that someone else had invented and made it better so he could look up. So that was huge, huge, huge. Because it's just the things they saw that the naked eye simply cannot see, the craters of moon. It cannot see spots on the sun. You project that onto a surface. You don't look through the telescope, you project it onto a surface, and you can see these spots and they move around. What else? You know, years of Saturn. Milky Way is actually not a fuzzy patch, but lots of dots. You know the list. So, about the year he died, it doesn't matter, it's about a year later. And there was the calendar of England and the calendar in Italy, a little different, so you can worry about that if you want. But about 84 years old, Newton died. And the amazing thing here, I'm going to show you a quick little tour. Check out what was going on during that period. Oops, we're good? Still good, okay. So during that period, we had the plague, right? Who else? When was Shakespeare? When was that? I look up these things. Kind of fun to piece that together. Anyway, but Newton, you know, Galileo his work got passed on to Newton at an early age. This became the springboard into the scientific revolution, right? The age of science. This is where we have modern knowledge of physical reality, the laws. There are laws of physical reality, the physical universe. This is it. This is the beginning. And then you start doing experiments and learning more and more, and you get better and better equipment. Bam, right? This is maybe the first sort of modern piece of equipment there. People did line things up and measure things, but now we got that. Okay? And then we've got this knowledge. What was that springboard? Well, he was only like 23. Again, you can check my history, but universal gravitation, the idea that somehow all matter, all things, I'm pulling on this. Oh, Earth pulled it. Somehow all matter pulls all other material objects. And by matter, I mean solid, liquid, gas, all matter. So that applies to falling objects. And even when I throw it upwards, it decreases speed and increases speed. Why doesn't it just keep going? Something must be pulling it down. How does that work? Somehow he didn't know. I mean, he didn't know. So we say, somehow it's happening. We'll see why. And orbiting planets. So this applies to baseballs, and it applies to planets. And then he didn't publish. Now when he came up with these, that's an interesting history, but he published about 20 years later, 3 laws of motion for all matter. Solid, liquid, gas. You might not be able to see that there, but I call them N1, N2, N3. Newton's 3 laws of matter. Newton's first law of motion, which was really Galileo's. Newton's second law of motion, and Newton's third law of motion. We're going to go over that. To understand these things, again, this is going to be short, and then we'll get into it on the next video. We're going to get into these concepts. They're a little bit tricky. In fact, this is often taught incorrectly, and this is sometimes taught incorrectly too. So we've got 3 ideas, and you can measure these things. That becomes the key of science. You've got to be able to measure it and remeasure it. We've got to relate how much, and the language of how much, like it or not, is mathematics. And so, and it's learnable. You might not have had a good math teacher, but you can learn it. People can learn it, right? It's just whether or not you put the time in. But we have to be clear on what acceleration means. We have to be clear on what force means. And we have to be clear on what mass means. Just a taste. We're not going to get mathematical in this course, but just a taste of what those are. And you can feel this stuff, but it isn't directly obvious. And so I'll guide you through these ideas, show you some motion. In fact, if you have Newton's 3 laws, you've got to invent gravity. So you can look up that sequence in history of him publishing that, but he was aware of this to come up with this gravity as well. So we're going to get into that. Let me take you on a quick little tour. Again, this is get us rolling into Newton. And I like this guy. It's kind of clearer. So here we are. Newton, roughly, if you want round number, 1700, mid 1600s, that's good too. I like to show these pictures. You can look them up easily, search them. He was a young man. He was and he was very involved and very influential throughout his age. And you can see the hairstyles have changed over the years, right? Nowadays, you can rock whatever hair you want. I think that's very cool. It's kind of silly to judge people on what they're wearing and how they look. It's really silly. And you see in the book, I'm going to go really quickly, but now we know, right? We know that this is in the book. Why do planets move around the sun? Why do planets move by Kepler's? Kepler knew how planets move around sun, but he didn't know why. And if things aren't perfect out there, as Galileo showed, then do they behave just by the same rules? Are there laws out there? And so we're going to look into this stuff, right? And that's what we're going to get into on the next video. Let's finish off our tour to the development of science and a revolution in thinking.